Hey, everybody. We are live on this amazing Sunday night. And actually, my screen, I'm going to stop share really quick because I got a little crazy and went a little fast with myself. I'm Kara, or the Red Hat Lady, or V-Ball Recruiter, and with me I have Coach Sam, and we are going to share a little bit of background and then dive into some Q&A here. So I'm just going to share my screen and then hit slideshow, and here we go. Okay. Coach Sam, do you want to start tonight and share a little background on you, and then we'll dive in on this topic about building momentum in your recruiting journey?
Yes, excited. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Coach Sam. Um, the 1 minute version here, because we got a lot of great stuff here tonight, is that I was a college coach for 20 plus years. During my time at Eastern Illinois, Kara and I finally had a chance to connect actually in person. We had talked before that as I was recruiting a client of hers at EIU. And then we met at the Lone Star Qualifier, and it was the rest is history, as we like to say, in terms of always finding a way to connect with each other. And then after my tenure was up at EIU, I left the dark side. It's really not the dark side of collegiate coaching. I just joke because I went from the dark side, though, to the magical side of serving in this role with helping you all on the recruiting journey.
Awesome. 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 Okay. And I am Kara Hill. I got started 14 years ago, started with a recruiting service, and over the last 14 years have just had an incredible opportunity to build a brand as V-Ball Recruiter, or the Red Hat Lady, and to also connect with so many amazing players through this process. So built a brand as the Red Hat Lady, or V-Ball Recruiter, and have just provided support and guidance to athletes for the last several years. And tonight we have some really exciting stuff to talk about. And so as my brain's going crazy here, I just want to dive in, if that's cool with you. So here we go. Um, as we talk about recruiting and we talk about building momentum, the first thing that Coach Sam and I talk a lot about is really getting evaluated. That's why this screen keeps popping up, is you've got to get evaluated. It matters. And so, getting an athletic evaluation, really knowing where you are, is really, really crucial, because tonight we're going to talk about some tremendous marketing tips that are going to help you with standing out from the competition, running a consistent campaign, being creative, being unique. And all of these things that we share with you are super, super impactful if you get your target list of schools right. And this doesn't mean that you can't dream big. What it means is you've got to have kind of this target list. You've got to have a group of schools that are, maybe those high reaching schools. And then you also have to take a step back and really focus in on programs that more than likely are going to be the best fit. And Coach Sam, I thought we could tell a little bit of a story or share about a player that we worked with this past season. And if you want to share just a little bit about her journey as she kind of came on, and then, we did our assessment and how it all worked out.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the evaluation piece is super, super important here. And this young lady that you're talking about, had kind of some ideas about who she was looking at, thinking about. And, you and I watched film, we had a chance to see her live as well. And then we tailored her list to where we're like, hey, these are the schools that you need to be focusing in on. And what was it? Like really, like what, 6, 7 weeks later, what did you say? Like within 7 weeks, she was committed to a Division I institution. She had multiple offers. She had, multiple visits, and we stressed with her the importance of like the fit in terms of the environment, to the school, to the location. to the volleyball program itself. And, she went, had conversations, went on her visits, and really found that the school she is ended up committing to, it checked off all those boxes. But a big piece of it that she was just very diligent and very committed. And I think this eval piece too, of like, here's where we need to hone in on, here's where you're going to get some interest. And lo and behold, she wrapped up.
Yeah, it was amazing. Um, Next phase of this is really understanding your finances and defining financial goals and discussing them as a family. You all need to sit down and have a conversation, a very candid conversation about where you want your out-of-pocket expenses to be. And we're talking about these 2 points first before we dive into this marketing strategy, because these items at the beginning that we're talking about in terms of getting the athletic assessment, honing in, creating that target list of schools, and then, understanding this financial piece is really, really crucial in order to help set the tone for your whole recruiting journey. You're going to need to be prepared to discuss your needs when it comes to paying for college. And so as a family with your athlete, sitting down and talking about what is realistic for your family. Do you want your out-of-pocket expenses, to be as close to zero as possible? Are you using volleyball as a leg up to a top academic school? And are you hoping, to get into a school that has less than a 10% acceptance rate? In schools like this, you either qualify for need-based money or you don't get anything and you're cutting a check for $80,000+ a year. So trying to get a hold of where you want to be financially is going to be a really big piece in understanding how to navigate this process. And especially if you're working with somebody. We had a client that we worked with, about a year ago, and this particular player, we, laid out, we had these financial conversations, really stressed and tried to understand what the overall goals were for the family. And the family felt like they would be able to take on this big financial commitment. Their daughter committed to Pomona College. She had an offer at a few other institutions. One of them, her out-of-pocket expenses was less than $10,000 a year. But the school that she wanted to go to, Pomona College, it was going to be full boat. Even though the family had twins, they were both going off to college. It was going to be a huge financial commitment. And the family talked about it. They thought that they were going to be good. They sealed the deal and decided to make that commitment to Pomona College. And then ultimately backtrack, the dad got cold feet as they got closer and closer to having to write that check. You don't want to add that kind of stress to your family, to your, son or daughter that's going through the process. Mainly we work with girls, but every once in a while we get some guys that hop on here as well. And so really sitting down and having this honest and transparent conversation, I can't stress the enough, so that it's smooth sailing from there. College coaches at a certain phase are going to talk about your finances. And Coach Sam, you were a head coach at a very prestigious, Division III school, Rhodes College, one of the, top 50 academic school in the country. And this was something that you faced as a college coach. So I would love to just have you share some of your feedback in terms of recruiting and what it's like to recruit, and then the questions that families really need to be prepared to answer when they have to have these kinds of financial conversations.
Yeah, that was something early on that I was fortunate that my athletic director at the time, Coach Clary, when I started at Rhodes a long time, feels like a long time ago, but well, it was 25 years ago. But one of the things was that when I was starting to go through the recruiting process, where he was very helpful, is he said, Coach, he goes, I know you're going to have some kids that you are just gung ho, that you feel are going to come in here and help, make this volleyball program better. And he says, but he goes, there's a point where you're going to have a financial discussion with the family as things move along, so that you don't get your hopes dashed when it doesn't work out. He goes, nobody's going to come to Rhodes for free unless they're just in a position where they really can't afford to pay for anything and they're Pell eligible, et cetera, things like that. And the best, and so I appreciated that he was very upfront with me about having those discussions. And the best part too is that he's like, look, he goes, if you are ever uncomfortable about having that discussion with a family, when it's time, you tell me, who we need to call. I will come in the office with you and we'll call them together, and I will be more than happy to have that conversation with them to find out more. And so we can have an honest discussion to see if Rhodes is really gonna be able to check off the boxes for them financially. And I always appreciated, Coach Clary and that in helping guide me with that process. And so, there comes a point where, Rhodes now does early reads for their kids, which is fantastic. When I was there, that wasn't necessarily happening, but now with the early read process that Coach Green there is able to do, kids are getting an idea of the merit money that they could potentially earn by applying early decision to a Rhodes and then anything else that kicks in. Rhodes, like many schools, like liberal arts schools, there's the FAFSA to fill out or the CSS profile. A lot of higher academic schools like the CSS profile because it's a little more user friendly and a little more financially friendly for families to get some additional funding. But it's important as a coach. Coaches are going to ask that. Like coaches are going to say, they say this all the time to Kara and I, okay, financials, what do you know? And they know we know this. So here's what they can expect to pay out of pocket. Do you think that that's something that this family would be willing to do? And most of the time I have the answer to that, just as Kara has the answer to that as well. And sometimes I'll be like, there's no way that that's going to work for this family. And, and I think it's important and they're going to have to move on and you're going to certainly need to move on as well as a coach. So just having that and a lot of families don't also understand, like when you talk about the cost, tuition, room and board, all of that putting together, what that totally entails, and then knowing how to subtract like any merit money or, need-based financial aid you will get from there. And I also know that some families don't necessarily want to have to pay for a student loan. You need to look at the total package so that you can see what if there are student loans in there as well towards defraying the cost of your education.
Okay, next up, I am introducing Vera, and you all, I am so incredibly excited about this amazing assistant. First off, we have built the very first AI assistant for volleyball recruiting. This was a huge project and I'm really excited about it. And we're going to incorporate Vera into our workshop tonight. Actually, our clients are going to get access. We're rolling her out this week to our clients. But I'm going to show you the power of Vera here tonight as we get going. So moving on, creating a intro email. Sam, do you want to dive in here and really chat about the introduction email, kind of as a college coach, what it's like on the receiving end to get all of these messages? I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of girls that are playing volleyball. So let's dive in here. And if you can share your feedback and your philosophy, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So obviously, you need to be creative. You just can't always be like, hi, my name is Sam and I was a 6'1", I'm a 6'1" middle blocker from Buffalo, New York. You've got to figure out being a little bit creative here of what's going to catch a coach's attention in that opening paragraph or that opening 2 lines. And then also in a subject line. Look, if you are a 6'3" middle blocker, that's going to catch most coaches' attention. But what do you do when you're that 5'3" libero, but you're a baller and, how do you make yourself stand apart? So the subject line, if you're able to come up with something fun and creative, I think that's fantastic. I know we had a kid back in the day who put in the subject line, "You just won a cruise, ... And it made coaches like, huh? And then look at the message, basically like, is this a joke? And then it was like, fooled you. Now let me delve into this. I also think that you're looking at like 6 to 8 sentences. Please avoid writing a dissertation. People don't have time to read that. They want to get to the, and people need to know in that 6 to 8 sentences, yes, you need to be creative, something fun, something cool about yourself. And then volleyball. Where do you play club for? What year do you graduate in? I can tell you there were many times it took me a while to figure out what year is this kid? I need to know what graduation year, and I need to find this here sooner rather than later. In addition to always making sure that there is a link in there for video, please, because you can never send an email without video.
So I'm going to dive in. I'm actually going to show off Vera here in a second because we're going to create an intro. But before we dive in and bring her in, just want to add a couple other things about this email to coaches and why this is relevant. So the topic tonight is how to build momentum in your journey. Whether you're just getting started in the process or you've been at this for a while, and you're heading into this club season and you want to get coaches to your court, I just want to make sure that I'm helping to connect all the dots here. Getting an evaluation, understanding where your target list of schools so that you know that you're honing in on the right schools, and then running this compelling email strategy. If you're starting the process and you're starting this intro, being creative, like Coach Sam said, thinking outside of the box and doing something fun with it. This is getting recruited is really all about relationships. It's building relationships. Coaches are looking at you as somebody that may come into their program for 4 or even 5 years. Something could happen. You could redshirt or have a medical redshirt. You could be there for 6 years. So imagine if you've ever played for a coach that you didn't care for, what impact that would have on you if you had to play for somebody that you didn't like for all these years. So it's so important that they get to know you. And obviously, over time, you have the opportunity to get to know them, to build momentum, to attract coaches, to get coaches to your court. You want to run this very compelling campaign. And so I'm taking a break from our slides here. I'm going to share my screen here and I'm going to dive in to Vera. So when an athlete is a client at this point, and the next week they're going to have access to Vera on their screen. We're going to bring Vera to the market here over the next few weeks. But I'm going to dive in and I just kind of want to show you what you can do and how quickly you can create this email. We're giving you this information, right? Be creative. You want to stand out from the competition. Sam's talking about, different ways to do that. And as an athlete or as a parent, you might be sitting here going, great, how do I come up with this content? Like, how am I going to sit here and create this email with my daughter? So here we are. So you want to talk to Vera like you're talking to a friend or talking to a relative. You're going to sit down and you're going to say, I need to write an introduction email to a college coach. I am a middle in the class of 2027. I attend, I'm going to say Hebron High School because that's where my son goes right now. High school in Carrollton, Texas. I have a 4.0 GPA, Devlin wishes. And actually, he's doing pretty well right now. Attend a Hebron High. I have a 4.0 GPA. Other things that we want to say. This club season, I'm going to be playing. And by the way, it does not have to be, grammatically correct. You just want to throw as much as you can at this. This club season, I'm going to play for TAV. Let's say 16 blue. Sam, give me some tournaments. I'm going to Tour of Texas. We are playing at Tour of Texas. Give me a couple others.
Triple Crown.
Yeah. What else?
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
And Lone Star.
And Lone Star. Looks like a great schedule. I think we're going to all those. Then I want to say something about my high school season. Team made playoffs this high school season. What else might we say? I earned first team all conference or region, whatever your stuff is. What else do we want to say? I've included a highlight reel from my club season or my high school season. And anything else you can think of?
I don't know, I was just thinking something like off of the whole like school volleyball piece, and even though it's November, I'm ready for Christmas.
Oh yeah, I love that. And that's so like what I love about that, Sam, is it it's so creative. It's like it's something that's relatable. That's what I'm trying to say. It's relatable. Even though it's November, I'm super excited for Christmas. I'm going to say I'm really into the Grinch because Sam's really into the Grinch. Grinch. Oh my Lord. And you have the cup. Okay, that's it. All right. That's what I'm going to throw at this. I'm going to hit enter and Vera is going to throw out a structured email to introduce myself. Okay. Fun fact. I'm really into the Grinch and I can't wait for Christmas this year. You see that? Dear Coach, we started with something unique. Instead of, hi, Coach, my name is, we did something different. My name is Kara Hill. I'm a middle hitter in the class of 27, attending Hebron High School in Carrollton, Texas. I'm proud to maintain 4.0 GPA while balancing academic and athletic commitments. This club season, I'll playing for TA Flu Blue. You can see, like, look how quick this was.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. So that is the introduction. We're going to dive in. We're going to keep going. We're going to use Vera throughout our presentation tonight and continue to show kind of her power. But I thought this was really kind of cool to share. So now I'm going to dive in. And by the way, y'all, if you have questions, please feel free to ask any questions. And I'm happy to ask questions as we go. Like I said, we're going to continue to show her off through the night here. So now I'm going to pull up my Google Slides and get back to our presentation. Was that not cool though? I thought it was super cool.
It was awesome. I mean, it was so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's cool.
Slideshow. Going back, raising my hand. Safari. Here we go. Okay. Sending follow-ups. Coach Sam, the holiday season as a theme, using holidays to share traditions. We did this. Favorite recipes, family activities. These details make you memorable. Sam, can you talk about the impact that what we're diving in and we're talking about, just as you had to recruit players over the years, if you can just share like how this impacts you on the receiving end as a college coach?
Absolutely. So obviously, I guess I'm showing my age, you know, and when I started coaching collegiately back in 1999. But there was when recruits were sending out VHS tapes because that's where we were early on in that time. And it was Halloween, which is, you know, one of your favorite holidays of the year as well, that we just got done celebrating not too long ago. There's a young lady we were actually recruiting from the DFW area, and she sent her VHS tape around Halloween time. And you know what else came in the package? Some candy. And whether I liked the candy or not, I really don't remember. But it was the fact that she thought to put that in there because of the holiday, like, or that timing. And not only when she made her, I do remember this too. She did her intro, and she had a cape on, basically, like, and did a little intro in a Halloween costume to introduce herself, which I thought was really cool. I didn't end up getting the kid, but obviously I haven't forgotten the kid because she made an impression. So yes, if you send like food items through the mail, do coaches like that? It's certainly a way to their heart, and they'll remember that for sure. Not saying that you have to do that all the time, but that's where where we are in today's day and age, just making something stand out. It's important. If you know, with the young ladies that we're working with, I was just on a catch up with one of our kids before we got on our webinar, and she was just celebrating her sweet 16 birthday. So like, like how was the birthday? All that, like that's important for us as we're building relationships with our kids. College coaches want to do the same. So something that stands out outside of the volleyball piece, that most coaches are going to remember that. And when you start talking to them, or if you meet them in person, they're going to remember that about you. And that's just that instant connection that helps this journey move forward, by the way.
This is all about making a lasting impression. So let me kind of paint a picture for you. If you are a college coach and you are on University Athlete and you are looking at your schedule for the day and you are trying to determine, you've got, I don't know, sometimes 10 or 15 girls all playing, or guys all playing at the same time, scattered throughout a convention center. And you're going to go through and you're going to look and you're going to want to figure out name recognition, right? So as we talk about getting creative, being unique, making this lasting impression, now this really helps set the tone and helps you understand how impactful it is. Now here's the coach, they're in the gym, they're looking at UA, they're trying to determine, who do I need to go see? And you want them to look at your name, have a smile come across their face, and for them to prioritize you over another recruit. That's how powerful this is. Not to mention, when it comes to the club season, they have to make decisions, y'all, where they're going to go. What tournaments are they going to attend? And they have to look at all their prospective recruits. Where are they playing? Who are they going to be able to capture? And again, when they have that emotional connection with you, when they get excited to get your messages, and they do, if you think about the random, the most, the most consistent messaging that they get is, hey coach, I want to send you this quick update. Hey coach, season's wrapped up and I want to share a link to my highlights. Now I'm, switching over to club. When it lacks personality, when it lacks that personality in it, you're not as relatable, and it's easier to just, trash or move on and move to the next one. So all of these things matter. And when we talk about momentum, this is a marketing campaign. And so it's the best way to really understand how to do it. And this is why I'm so excited about Vera, because when you go through this and you're struggling and you're trying to come up with content, I'm going to go back to her. I had an athlete before I got on this call tonight, before we did this webinar, and she's freaking out. And she goes, Kara, I actually am going to have surgery. I've got some loose cartilage in my knee. We don't know how long it's going to be. And so we used Vera, okay? And we said, I'm injured, I am panicking, and I have no idea how to navigate this recruiting process while I'm injured. By the way, you can see, you can just type anything. What do I do? How do I communicate with coaches? What should I say? Here we go. Okay, just type something out just to throw it out and see what it says. Here she goes. Sorry to hear about your injury, but it's important to remember that many successful athletes have navigated similar challenges during the recruiting process. What I love about Vera, you all, is she is empathetic. We can work through this together using the START framework. Here's how to approach this phase. Strategize, recovery timeline. Create a detailed recovery timeline based on your doctor's advice. This will help you align your training and recruiting activities with your health progress. Short-term goals, adjust your goals to focus on rehab and skill development that doesn't strain your injury. Target, research schools, focus on schools with strong medical support and athletic rehab programs. This will ensure you have the necessary resources during your recovery. Highlight resilience when communicating with coaches. Emphasize your dedication to recovery and your commitment to the sport. This goes on and on. Activate communication plan. Develop a plan to inform coaches about your injury. Here's a template you can use. Then it lays out a template. on how you can actually communicate and what to do. Adjust your training, track your progress, okay? Additional tips, things where you can do. Now, as we've talked about this recruiting process, we've talked about the email campaign. We haven't really dove into social media yet, but one of the things that we're going to emphasize here momentarily is how all of these things are related and they come together, and that you want to have a consistent storyline, if you will, across all of your platforms. So going to move on here to the next, laying the foundation. And if you don't mind, I'm going to leave all these slides open because I want to be able to go back and forth and use Vera. So what I just talked about here was building the momentum, laying the foundation. Consistency is really key. You know, authenticity over perfection. You know, take some time, be authentic, be yourself. You want coaches to feel like they're getting to know you. Remember, it's relationships here. This is all about relationship building. This is going to be a huge emphasis now that the national letter of intent is going out the door and we've got these new financial aid agreements that are coming in. You know, there's a lot of questions here when it comes to recruiting, and coaches want to get to know the players. And you, by the way, want to get to know the coaches because you got one shot to get this right. Aligning your email, social media, and your film. So I talked a little bit about that before I jumped into this slide. There's got to be consistency. If you're talking about your, injury in an email, you want to show up on social, you want to tie it together. Athletes get injured, girls. It's okay if you have an injury. You can certainly talk about your drive, your work ethic, and what you're doing to stay consistent, to continue to make, progress through all of this, really. And you can create momentum through storytelling. Be adaptive, be resilient, build and leverage relationships here. Sam, I know there's been some key times that we've talked about this over the years as you've recruited different players and you've talked about building relationships with your athletes and just how crucial it is as a coach. I'd love for you to just share, some feedback about all of this stuff that we're really diving in, what it means to the coaches, and how it can make an impact with recruiting.
I think, for most coaches, right, it's not, obviously there's a volleyball piece that comes into play here for sure. Absolutely. However, you're going to spend a lot of time with your coaching staff and your team members. And that's really an important piece here. And I know, like, for example, in my time at Rhodes, like my players were integral parts during the recruiting process because of what we had built. And so, when players were coming, when it was that time for people to come visit and girls were going to host and planning out the visit, I wanted to get their feedback because we knew where we were as a program, not just on the court, but more importantly, off the court. And, so the girls would come in after a visit, the host and a couple of the other players who hung out, and be like, all right, here are our thoughts. And there were a couple times that the girls were like, Coach, we don't think that she's a good fit. And I'm like, okay, why? And of course they knew they needed to be specific, but I really trusted their input because of what we were doing. And I think that's an important piece. And I think you see that with a lot of programs. We always say that players are going to give you the good, the bad, the ugly as to what's going on and how you make it all work. So that relationship piece, I think, is just, it's, as a coach, you want to know that you're getting good people on and off the court. And just as they, moms and dads want to know that they're sending you to a good program and that your coaching staff, they know that their daughter is going to be taken care of. I think also just knowing, like, players when they're consistent in their response, getting back to coaches in a timely manner. And I know through this recruiting process, let me be very clear that there are some college coaches out there who without a doubt need to be probably way better than 1% about getting back to players. I get that in today's day and age when, sending a text of a player texts me, they expect a response back. And I used to have that discussion with my players. I'm like, if you send me something via text, I know you want an immediate response from me about something. And I work my hardest to get back to you. there are times when I will send a message and I understand that, you might be, like I say this to my players, that you're in class, I know your class schedule. However, when it takes you longer than X amount of time to get back to me, not a good thing. We have to have a give and take with all this. And they said, you're fair, absolutely, like that expectation piece. So, players, like when coaches are asking for things, they're getting back to you. You have to be timely. It's kind of like a test, to be honest with you, as to, okay, she's done her job. We want to keep moving forward. On a visit, how you present yourself, how you look, how you act, how you communicate, things like that. That's that selling piece of, okay, we want to offer somebody a spot. That all begins like from that first time you have that phone, like obviously from your communications via email to landing that first phone call and beyond.
Moving along here, creating and sharing highlights effectively. When you are sharing highlights and you, again, are trying to get college coaches to come to your court, you need to ensure that the highlights you're sharing are starting with your best plays. These first 10 seconds should really showcase your most impactful plays. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves right now. Athletes that are sharing raw huddle links that have not really, been gone through. When huddle breaks up your footage and they create highlights, those highlights, as you know, are not always your best plays. The challenge when you give a college coach your raw huddle link that just has all of your video on your profile and you have not had an opportunity to go through it, you are expecting a certain level of patience for that coach to sit there and watch video after video. I did an athletic evaluation on a player earlier today, and they sent over a bunch of film on huddle. And, for me, I wanted to be patient because I could tell that they hadn't actually gone through and looked at the footage. And she actually was a middle, she was a 6 foot middle, got her questionnaire looked solid. And so I wanted to be a little bit more patient with this player. And I'm comparing then her club film. I click over and I'm looking at club film, and her club film is way more impactful than what was happening in the high school season. You need to understand that these coaches are not going to keep clicking and searching and trying to find the best content of you. You've got one shot to make a good, lasting impression. That needs to start with the quality of your email, and then it needs to carry over into your film. As Sam likes to say, you should not be sending your serving highlights. Nobody cares. They don't want to see your serving highlights. They want to see you playing in your position. So if you're a setter, moving the ball around and setting, you can show some dumping, but you need to start your plays with actually setting. Middles, you need to block, you need to swing. Again, when that video pops on, it has to be lasting. It needs to be something that gets your attention right away. So make sure you're editing and you're cutting through effectively to get the most out of it. Your social highlights are going to be on the shorter side. Your highlights that are on YouTube are going to be anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes long, just to give you a heads up here. Sam, anything you want to add on this film criteria here?
Just I think you hit the nail on the head. And please let it run at game speed. That's important. Please save the slow motion, all the effects for if you're putting anything on a social reel, like on Insta. But as in a highlight, please let it go at game speed. And again, please don't circle, square, put your kid on fire, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's really not necessarily when you're doing your highlights, it's really not necessary for you to to do any of that. If you tell the coach your jersey number and your position, they're going to be able to find you. The only thing that I would say is if you're on the far side of the court, some of the high school footage, depending if you're using, huddle footage from high school and it's filmed on top, you might have to say you're on the left side or the right side of the court. That might not be so apparent, but definitely take the time to go through and actually watch the film and make sure that you're creating very short highlights, that you're getting attention right from the start. And and don't share that raw footage. It's really important that you stay away from that. So this just is kind of a little bit of a reminder here of how all of these things kind of go together, okay? And this is how you build momentum, consistency across all these platforms. So starting from your emails, right? So first you got to get your athletic evaluation. You got to make sure that you're targeting the right schools, and then you're sending emails to schools where, definitely you've got some schools in the mix that you can play for. As you're storytelling about yourself and you're talking about your interests and what you're looking for, then that connects us on social media. These are related. So your social and your emails, your storyline, if you're talking about the holidays, and you're, celebrating that you love Christmas. We use Sam's example about the Grinch, having something that shows up about the Grinch over here on social. Again, it connects the dots. This is how our brains work. Then moving over to film, making sure you're consistent here, running a campaign, making sure that you've got consistent film that's showing up in your emails and your social, that you're capturing those highlights and keeping this edited on a consistent basis, okay? And then tapping into the phone calls. Showing up on phone calls matters. I'm going to show you here as we talk about phone calls. I'm going to say I have a phone call with a college coach. This is my first call. What do I do? How do I prepare? Okay. And Vera is going to break down what exactly we need to do to prep for a call. And here it is. Research the program, know the coach, familiar yourself with the coach's background, coaching style. This is something that a lot of players forget to do. They don't go to the website and read the bios of the coaching staff. I would tell you that regardless if you're talking to the head coach or the assistant coach or the recruiting coordinator, you need to read all of their bios and have a little bit of an idea. Take some notes on all of them. This will help you when you ask informed questions and show genuine interest. Understanding the school, learning about the school's academic program, their campus culture, any specific features that attract you to the institution. Pull it up on a map, y'all. Pull it up on a map. Take a look at where the school is. Have a little bit of an idea of who you're talking to and where they are at. To prepare your introduction, introduce yourself. You need an elevator pitch. Have a brief introduction ready that includes your name, your position, your high school grad year, any relevant achievements. Sharing that, preparing questions, asking about the program. Prepare thoughtful questions about the team, coaching philosophy, and what they look for in recruits. Pull up their social media. Make sure, see, are they keeping it updated? See if you can check out some of the players that are following along. Look at their social. What are some of the team's goals for the upcoming season? They're obviously knee deep in season now. So, how are the goals that they set at the beginning of the season, and how are things translating now? How do you support athletes in balancing academics and athletics? For those of you that, maybe you've got medical school in your future and you're really aiming to use volleyball to give you a leg up into a top academic school. You want to go to a rigorous school. So having an understanding of how they balance, what qualities do you value most in your players? Understanding that from a college coach's perspective, discussing your goals, share your aspirations, be ready to discuss your academic and athletic goals, including what you hope to achieve. Be honest about your injury. Obviously, it knows that I was asking about injuries, so it's telling you to be honest about the injury. Practice active listening, engage in the conversation, take notes. I use a program called Otter AI, and it helps me with taking notes because I'm really bad at the note-taking part, but you can definitely look at using different platforms that can help you with that. And then following up after, thanking the coach. Don't take a call, do the coach, and then drop off the face of the earth. The consistency is important. And again, when you're trying to build momentum, when you're trying to get coaches to your court, this follow-up, the intentional follow-up matters. Making sure that you are consistent and you are intentional and you are showing genuine interest, you are paying attention to detail. And, it allows post-call reflection, review your notes after the call, reflect. What did you learn? You should send a follow-up message, thanking the coach for their time. Now, you don't have to send that in an email. You could send it in a text. But again, this is something that really helps you. A lot of athletes here drop the ball. And this is something to really understand. A lot of athletes drop the ball when it comes to communication. They think, when they start this process, they email a coach, they get a response with a questionnaire, and the response is, send me a link to your club schedule. And I can't tell you how many athletes send the club schedule off and then wait for months before they send something out again. And then they wonder why they don't have coaches coming to their court. You have got to be proactive. You have got to be consistent, and you've got to really connect all the dots here. I'd love to answer questions. Any of you that have questions about your process, we're going to open that up. The first one here is, where can we find email addresses for college coaches? Do we need to look them up yourselves? Sherry, we have a database, and we also have a messaging system that's rolling out here that tracks opens and clicks, but it allows your daughter or your son to actually use their personal emails, so they can use their Gmail account or their Outlook or their mail account, and they can send personalized emails to the coaches. The software, the system will track opens and clicks and views, and even make suggestions when your next email should be sent. This is all part of Vera and what we're really excited about rolling out. It's an exciting time. You can certainly take the time to Google the staff directories of the various programs that you're interested in. But when you start this process, one thing that we didn't talk about is casting a wide net and really having about 100 schools on your list. So it can take you a lot of time to find that information, but you really do want to cast a wide net here. Coach Sam, anything that you want to share about anything that we just talked about here, or any questions that you've gotten this week that you thought would be really impactful as you've talked to college coaches and connect with players, just as we've talked about building momentum?
I think, you talked about after that phone call when you're going through with Vera, just that it didn't have to be an email. I think the texting piece is important. And I tell everybody, like, you like to text, you're used to texting, utilize that to your advantage. And even for once you commit to a school, you need to still stay in consistent communication with your future coaching staff, by the way. So that's something that, harping on that as well, like, you got to keep that going. And that's important there. Just as a reminder, you are not like, you have controllables in this process and what you need to keep doing. And it's a grind. And I said to somebody earlier today, this process is like being on a roller coaster. You are going to be up and down through it. And that's okay. That is totally normal. However, when you're level going on that, when you're on your ride and you're going this way, it's because you're taking care of what you need to be. And even in those moments when you don't hear back right away from college coaches, know that a lot of times it's not that they do see it or they do have it. And just know that they're like, it's about to get like, listen, people are starting to wrap up their seasons here in the next week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And so they're going to get on it. And then once they do, it's important that you are taking care of business as well, because that makes a difference. A school you don't hear from right away, that maybe is a school you really like, you're going to all of a sudden out of the blue, you hear from them and bam, it's on. You need to keep that in mind.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap up. I don't see any other questions that have come in here, so we are going to wrap up. I really appreciate you all joining tonight. Would love to hear from you if you have questions. Coach Jen is on with us tonight as well, so you can always reach out to Jen at vballrecruiter.com, and she'll follow up and chat with you as well. So we appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week for part 3 of our series. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.